Connie. I'm an educator here with the Conservation Foundation, and I help as a counselor at our summer camps, which are held here on the farm at McDonald Farm in Naperville in Lenore's backyard garden, which right now is snowy and icy and cold and covered up, and you can't really see much, and it doesn't look like much would be growing out here, but it will be. And right now is a really good time to get our seeds started so that we can grow our gardens later when it warms up outside. So today we're going to start some of our own seeds for the garden here and teach you how you can start some seeds and grow some plants at home. Part of what we need when we're starting our seeds is healthy soil. We need healthy soil to grow healthy plants because they make healthy people, which make up healthy communities. And so this is actually one of our camp t-shirts. So if you come join us at camp this summer, you can get a t-shirt too. And we'll have lots of plants, and you'll get to see the seeds we start today and how they look later on in the warm weather when they're all growing really nicely. So everybody, if you're ready, we're going to start some seeds because, ladies and gentlemen, start your gardens. So you guys, I want to introduce you to my friend Miss Amy. She also helps out with the camps and helps run them and will help us in the garden and help us do all kinds of fun activities at camp. So she's going to help me today with some of the seeds. So Miss Amy, what is your favorite thing about seeds?
What is my favorite thing about seeds? Well, it depends. If the seed is included in this raspberry, it's the taste of it, right? So seeds, you can find seeds anywhere. Can you think of different places that you've seen seeds before? So this is a raspberry. The seeds are just inside. If you actually turn it inside out, it almost kind of looks like a strawberry.
It does on the inside.
How cool is that?
That is so cool.
Miss Connie, are there any other vegetables there that you see that have seeds on the inside?
There are. Some of them I can see right now. So like inside this pepper, there's some seeds right here. If I open this up a little bit, up in the top, there are a whole bunch of seeds in there. They're kind of tucked in the top right there. Those would be really easy to get out and save if I wanted to plant some seeds later. So for nutrients, seeds like to get their nutrients mainly from the soil they live in, and that's like their home. So the seed will have to land or fall or blow or end up somewhere where hopefully there's some good soil that it can settle down into. And in the soil, there are all kinds of different things that make this a good place for the seeds to live. Once the seed is in the soil, it needs a few other things. It needs some water. It needs to be moist. If it's too dry, then it won't really be able to grow. What else? What else does it need? Today is a really good day where we have some beautiful sunshine. The seeds definitely need some sun, some light. Not always right away at first because they're under the soil, but as soon as they start to peek out, they won't be able to grow if they don't have the sunlight to help them make their food.
So, Miss Connie, what are some components of healthy soil? Right now we've got some topsoil, and you can get topsoil pretty much anywhere. Garden stores, hardware stores, big boxes, anywhere. And you can see there's a lot of different things inside of here. But, you know, sometimes we like to add some things to our soil. What do we like to add to our soil?
Well, one of the main things that the soil gives to the plants is nutrients. So some nutrients are already in the soil and they're in the ground if you're growing a garden outside. But when we're planting in pots, some seed starting mixes don't have any vitamins in them at all. If you start your seeds in those, you'll need to get them some food or get them into a new pot with some other soil that does have nutrients and vitamins. So
what would be a way of getting those kind of nutrients?
That's a great question. You can add
maybe compost?
Some compost. Compost is full of organic matter, which is made up of plants and other materials, and that helps give vitamins to our plants as they grow.
So when you whenever you do your own seed starting, you don't need to add all the stuff like we do. But once you transplant it, having some really healthy soil for your plants is going to be really important, whether that's in your garden or whether it's in a pot. So now that we have this really healthy soil and we know what seeds need in order to grow into the plants, we should maybe talk about our gardens. What are you going to grow in your garden this year?
I think I'm going to grow some of my favorites, which I like to grow a lot of different kinds of things. So that might be some vegetables, some fruits, some flowers, all kinds of things. Yep. And last year we had some things that were real favorites that the campers really enjoyed. So we'll grow some of those same things
What kind of favorites do you remember? I know some of the kids really liked some of the cucumbers. Yes, kale smoothies, green smoothies.
The tomatoes would have been good had the chipmunks not eaten most of them.
That's true. We had cherry tomatoes, and those were fun, and lots of different colors. And speaking of lots of different colors, we had all of those different colored beans that everybody got to plant and then grow and then pick. And so we had purple beans and yellow beans. Did you guys know that there are not just green beans, but there are also purple beans, yellow beans, striped beans? It's so cool when you grow your own stuff. You can grow all kinds of different things that you might not find at the grocery store. So good.
Okay, so now we know what we want to grow. And you can pick out any seed that you want to grow. You can go to the grocery store or pretty much anywhere that you're getting your soil. You can just go pick out whatever kind of seeds you want. But you should think about what kind of seeds you want to plant beforehand. And then we can get started. Okay, so now that we're ready to get started, everyone gather up whatever materials you have. So you can use anything from egg cartons to Dixie cups to the fancy seed starting kits you get at the store. But we like to use these egg cartons because they're really easy. I have a bunch of them. And then all you do, so you take the egg carton. Miss Connie, you want to take that one?
Sure.
And then I'll take this one, and we'll do both of these. So we're going to take the egg carton and we're going to cut it down the seam. That works too. All right, so you cut it down the seam, and then what happens is this egg carton sits inside of this. So this becomes the tray, and this is where your plants are going to live. So the first thing you want to do, though, is you want to punch a hole in the bottom of each one of these. So I'm going to have Miss Connie demonstrate while I talk. So you just punch a hole in the bottom of each one of those. And then while she's doing that, I'm going to take some plastic wrap, and I'm going to line the bottom of this. Because plants need water, but if they have too much water, their roots need to breathe just like we need to breathe. So if they have too much water, they won't be able to survive and they'll drown. So you need to have the hole in the bottom and a way of catching that water so that it doesn't land somewhere you don't want it, like on your table. So we're just going to take a little bit of the plastic wrap, and we're going to wrap it around the bottom of this, our tray. And you know what? I'm going to wrap it both ways because I don't want to water finds a way.
That's true.
Water will find a way to get away from wherever you want to put it. So I'm going to do it both ways. All right, so now we have a tray wrapped in plastic, and we have some little egg cartons with holes in the bottom that's going to go directly into that.
A couple of these holes, they're mostly small. A couple got a little too big because the bottom fell out when I poked it. You don't need a hole quite as big as that one that you can see through.
Just maybe a pen or a pencil?
Exactly. That would probably work better than the scissors.
And then we're going to take the soil that we made, and we're going to just pour this soil into here. And try not to spill. It's going to be hard not to. All right, shake it. Do we need more? Are we okay?
I think we can probably spread it, and maybe just a little more on the outside ones.
All right. Now, that soil looks really dry. I am going to actually take some of the water and just kind of wet the soil down. And you'll know your soil. You just kind of want the soil to be sort of damp to the touch. If it's got water pooled everywhere, then that's not good for it.
Sometimes it just takes a few minutes for it to soak in.
Yeah.
Sometimes the soil is really dry from being in the bag at the store if you bought it for your garden seed starting. So it might need a few minutes to soak the water in.
So what kind of seeds are we going to grow, I wonder? What kind of seeds are you going to grow? What did you pick out?
What's your favorite thing to eat from the garden that you might like to grow yourself this year?
We decided on green beans, mostly because it's what we had. So, it depends. If you buy your seeds today or tomorrow or whenever, and you probably only need to put maybe 2 seeds. You don't want to just put 1 seed. You want to put at least 2 because not all seeds are going to germinate.
Yeah, the first thing I usually do is look at the size of the seed you're planting, because not always, but usually the size of the seed gives you a bit of an idea of how deep to plant the seed. So this bean, being this big, would get planted a little bit deeper than those raspberry seeds that were really tiny. If they're really tiny, they need to be a little closer to the surface, so it's not as hard for them to get through all that soil. But if it's a little bigger, you tend to have a little bit stronger seedling, so you can plant it about as deep as the size of the seed.
So if you see about that size, you poke your finger in the soil about that deep, put it in there, and we'll give it just a little tuck, make sure it's settled in, and then we can see we just cover it up, tuck it in, and then it'll be good to go in there. So once you have labeled your popsicle stick so that you remember what seeds you planted, you can take that popsicle stick and put it in to label wherever your seed was. Now this popsicle stick, since it's so big, would make a really big tent when we do the next part of our steps. So we're going to just lay it down. But if you are using a smaller popsicle stick, it's okay to have it up, and that will actually help with the cover that's going on.
And we're going to cover it in plastic, but why do we cover it in plastic?
Have you guys ever seen a greenhouse? You may even, if you look carefully when you're watching our videos, you may see some in the background behind us. A greenhouse, you guys know what that is? Are they actually green? Not really, not usually, but inside you might find a lot of things that are green because that's where some plants can grow, especially when it's a little bit colder outside and it's not time for them to grow outside yet. A greenhouse is warm and protects the plants, and it helps keep some of the warmth in, and it lets the light through. See how this cover that Miss Amy just put on is clear? So the sunlight can still get through, but it doesn't let the heat escape. It kind of holds it in, makes a nice cozy place where the seedlings can sprout.
And this is just plastic wrap. And then the important thing is you just put the plastic wrap on. It helps to hold that warmth in. You'll start to see that the sun will beat down and you'll get a lot of what's called condensation. So it'll kind of look like there's water droplets on top. And that's perfectly great. We want that to happen. That means that it's really kind of protected. But once the plants start to sprout and they get 2 leaves, then it's going to be really important that you take this cover off. Because if you don't take the cover off, then it could start to get some mold growing in there, and then the plants won't live. So keep the cover on in a nice sunny window. So, because you want to definitely get the sun. Don't leave it outside because it's not quite warm enough for that yet. But cover it up with the plastic. Leave that on until you see those 2 leaves. And once you see the 2 leaves on all the plants, go ahead and take it off, and then just keep watering it. And you can use a water bottle, you could use a spray bottle, because these leaves are, because the seeds and the leaves that are coming up are going to be so delicate. We like to just use spray bottles, and so you just sort of spray a little bit. And again, you want the soil and the plants to be just sort of kind of spongy. Right. You don't want it to be dry, and you definitely don't want to see a puddle of water. You want to have it just to be wet enough. You know, it depends on how dry your soil is, but, you know, I usually just do maybe, 5 to 10, but you want to do it. You want to check it, at least depending on where you're putting your seeds, at least the first day that after you take the top off, you want to check it a couple times just to make sure it's not getting dry, and then just make sure you water it every day.
With these, if you planted these later and as your seedlings start to get to the right size to go outside, if you're ready to put these outside and the weather is good for that, you can actually just break off these little pieces of this type of carton, and you can plant that right in the soil without having to dig out your little baby plant and disturb its roots and move the soil around and have it fall off and away from the roots. It kind of keeps it cozy in there, and you can just take that little piece of the pot and plant that right in the soil all by itself.
And then what happens, because we planted 2 or 3 in each one of these, and sometimes you'll get lucky and you'll have a lot of plants that'll bloom. And so then you have to do something called thinning. And so if you get 3 sprouts that come up in one area, you pick the one that looks the sturdiest. Maybe it's the thickest or the strongest or the most upright or even just growing in the right location. And you keep that one, and then you just very carefully pull out the thinner ones. And it's called thinning. And that way you're giving that one strong seed the best chance of survival.
Thank you so much for participating in our workshop. We hope that you had a good time, you had fun, you learned a little bit about soil and seeds and all the different kinds of vegetables and fruits that you can grow. And we're gonna get ready. We're gonna put, whenever it's a little bit warmer, we're gonna take these seeds that we grow and we're gonna put them out here at our garden. And you can take your seeds, plant them at your house, and then if you're interested, come out and visit us in the spring or in the summer for our camps, and you can see the seeds that we're growing out here at the farm. Have a great day. Thanks.